Okay, everybody, in this lecture, we're going to be talking about question number 4. Now, question number 4 on the speaking section is probably one of the most difficult sections or difficult questions for most students to handle and manage. However, we're going to give you some really easy steps to help you get a great score. Now, when it comes to question number 4, we have to keep in mind a few things. First of all, let's take a look at our agenda here. We're going to cover the basics, some high score tips, reading note-taking strategy, listening note-taking strategy, and then full notes with speaking examples. There is one more part here that I don't have listed, and that is a section 6. In that section number 6, I'm going to be going over and showing you my notes versus what I actually say, because students sometimes have a real difficulty with summarizing. So question 4 is an academic related integrated speaking question. It's going to be about a university subject. Now, what does integrated mean? Well, integrated, of course, is defined as two or more things that are blended together or mixed together or talked about together. So one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of students make when it comes to question number 4 is that they only talk about the listening section. They just ignore the reading section. And the reading section and the listening section for question 4 are related. They are connected. I like to tell students that question number 4 is a general to specific question. It's a general to specific question. And if you remember from my reading lectures, I've talked about how things go from general to specific. And that's what we're dealing with here in this situation. Things are going to go from general in the reading passage to specific examples or explanations in the listening passage. So here are the basics. All right, and one thing we should do is we should change that because we're on question number 4. All right, question number 4, basics. So we're talking about the foundation. So when it comes to the foundation, of course, you're going to be given a reading passage of and you're going to have about 45 to 50 seconds to read and take notes. Okay, you got to take notes. Now, second step, you're going to hear an academic lecture giving real world clarification of the reading passage. You're going to have 30 seconds to prepare what you want to say and then have 60 seconds to speak. All right, now the format and structure of this question doesn't change in terms of design. Read, listen, prepare, speak. Here are the basics of question 4. You have this reading passage, right? Now, like what I was saying earlier, the reading passage is general in nature. This means that you're going to get provided some type of definition or description of a concept. Say, for example, depression. And they're going to define for you what depression is or what does it look like. Then, when it gets to the listening passage, that speaker is going to then give you some specific example of depression. Like they may talk about their sister that was going through bipolar depression or bipolar disorder. So the listening always gives more specific real world application of the definition. Okay? Reading passage is general, listening passage is specific in nature. And you have to get notes from both. Okay, from both. Now, it's really easy to do that when you know the information you're supposed to get. Okay, really easy to get that. So you have to know when I'm looking at a reading passage, what's the real necessary information I need to locate and find. When I'm listening to when I'm hearing the listening passage, what should I be writing down? Okay. There is a relationship between reading and listening in terms of theory and research versus definition, and this is sometimes how it follows. It's not an exact science, but these are just some observations. If the reading is about theory and research, then the listening might be about experiences. If the reading is a pure definition, then they're going to give some examples of the definition. But Again, that's maybe not something that you all can pick up on while you're actually doing the exam, but that's just good information to know. Here's the answering strategy, right? The reading is going to explain a general abstract concept, and the listening will illustrate and expand that concept with some concrete details or examples. You have to then summarize both passages and synthesize. You have to combine the information. Your response will include a summary of the main ideas of the reading passage and listening passage, and explain how they are related. Right? So, question number 4 is a challenging question to get a really high score on because it really requires a higher level of English ability. Okay? It requires a higher level of English ability because with question number 4, you have to be able to summarize. And a lot of students don't realize that. They sit there trying to read their notes verbatim, word for word, and they're not summarizing. And if you're not able to summarize, you're not going to get a very good score because you're not going to finish. You're going to sound rushed, and so it's not going to be your best effort. Here are some common low score mistakes that people are making on question number 4. No reading development, problem number 1. I've said this earlier. You have to pull out the necessary information from the reading passage. You have to give that information. It's background information for what they say in the listening passage. You can't just talk about the listening passage, and you can't talk about the listening passage first. Okay? Things go in a certain order. Things always go from general to specific, not specific to general. Problem number 2, not summarizing the listening, just reading things line by line. Big problem, not going to finish. And when you don't show the ability to summarize, you're showing that you don't have a high level of English. Problem number 3 is giving unnecessary information. Again, this happens when you're reading the notes you have on paper. Everything that they say in the listening lecture is not important. What really shows that your talent in terms of processing a language is your being able to recognize in that language what's important and what you need to say, not just repeating, trying to repeat everything back to the grader. They don't like that. That doesn't impress them. It's not impressive for you to just read your notes. I'm not impressed by that. And finally, problem number 4, making things up. Making it up. Okay? You didn't take good notes. You're trying to speak from memory. And sometimes you just start adding in your own opinion about stuff. And you can't do that. Some ways to increase your score: be direct. Use the active voice, not the passive voice. Use the active voice. Be very, very direct. You don't have time for frivolous language. Don't use unnecessary words. Just that relates to being direct. Go directly from point to point. Don't use any of that filler language. Filler language is when you say things like, for 2 main reasons, or he gives 2 examples, or just like extra language that's taking your time. Unnecessary language. Lacking details, big problem. Huge problem when you can't give specific details and you're talking big general terms. You got to be able to summarize details. Finally, speak up. If I can't hear you, I can't grade you. Right? Don't worry that there are other people in the room. That doesn't matter. This is your exam. Speak up. Otherwise, when you don't speak up, your voice trails off. And when it does that, you're going to get a low score. Now, in the next lecture, we're going to move over into the note-taking strategy for the reading part. Okay? So I'll talk to you soon. Take care.